Hi, I'm Cory Treffiletti. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Rembrand, and I am here to have a conversation with Drew Ingram from Pepsi. Drew, how are you?
Good, Cory. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming. Thanks for meeting me here.
Yeah, you bet. No, this is great. I mean, we're in Austin. I can't get enough. We're talking about the weather and the food, and yeah, I'm excited to be here for South by and chance to talk to you today.
It's a great day to be here. I swear that every year the Chamber of Commerce does a deal with the meteorologists to make it perfect outside.
Perfect.
So let's get started. First thing I want to talk about is be very casual.
Yeah.
What was the first concert you ever went to, and what was meaningful about it?
Oh, my. Well, hey, I think it's a pretty pointed question because we're in Austin, right? Quite the music scene here. There was a couple I like the smaller ones, but the biggest one I always remember like that stuck in my head was Blink-182 randomly.
Mm-hmm.
It was, they were becoming a big band. It was kind of punk. It was kind of like, as you're growing up in your youth and not like necessarily rebellious, but, like that punk spirit. And I was like, wow, I'm like out on my own. And like, I actually, drove there and it was really cool. And now it's crazy. Like they're still around. That's the other thing. All these bands that fade, one-hit wonders. So I guess I kind of have a good story there.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not too embarrassing, right? Like
no, not at all.
But yeah, actually still listen to a lot of their music. And yeah, those are fun times, man. High school, those are closer to senior year days when the workload was easier.
Yes.
It was like you had like lunch, recreation, and then like, some type of math course, and then you were done for the day. So like, those bring back to good days. But yeah, Blink-182, man.
To make a really great dad joke, it was all the small things about that made it really worthwhile.
That's good. I like that. Yes. Boy, that was a massive hit too. TRL.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, we're getting
sidetracked. We can have the entire conversation be about concerts, but we're not going to do that. I can't believe it's already the middle of March.
Yeah.
And we are flying through the year already. I'm kind of curious, like, what is your team looking at doing differently going into, say, Q2 and Q3 that is different than how they operated in Q1?
Boy, that's a good question. I think probably could go in a lot of different areas there. I think I'm always mindful, especially this time of year, is while upfronts, new fronts are important for us on the media side. My team is in charge of basically making sure that the plans are the right like size, the right like duration, the right investment, the right partners. I think we get caught up too much in like contracts or like JBPs, and I think I want my team to start like analyzing the business as opposed to just like actioning and like not thinking. And so a lot of the deals we set up are like PMPs, PG deals, locked in inventory. That's great for efficiency. That's huge. However, is that just more of a scaled play? Is that like how the consumer's thinking? Like, should we be paying more for certain media placements? Should we be paying less? Do we need a price floor? Do we need to be more of an auction-based environment? So I'm starting to analyze a lot more of the media plans that come through now, because it's kind of like, okay, we have the plan set, we're good, nothing's going to be messed up. So now for me, Q2 through Q4 is thinking about those optimization levers. Like, how do I think about next year's upfronts or like next year's plans, and how do we rethink those? So I've asked the team to be critically evaluating all of our media plans and thinking through that. And also, we have a marketing science team that helps us out with some of those measurement studies. And so we can actually start to like maybe unpack those a little bit. I feel like so many times that we land plans and then we just reskin them and like do it over again. And we're not mindful enough of thinking about what could we have done better. So those are probably the two key areas of looking at more critically at how we could buy, but then also like what was the impact of potentially pivoting some of those buys to shape 27.
Do you feel that the way that you're approaching those buys is it more nimble now, more flexible now? Are you able to take those studies that maybe you get when you do the brand lift studies and all the other types of analysis and research into a campaign? Are you able to respond and react to it in a more nimble fashion and bring that back into the planning process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and I think it's important to understand that there's two kind of sides of the business here that when I used to lead retail media, those signals were huge. So optimization levers, looking at a 2-week window to change like how I'm trying to perform. However, I think while I'm speaking a little bit outside both sides of my mouth here, like it is more about long-term growth for the brands. Yeah. And so what that means for me is maybe I don't need to be as reactive to signals actually. So how are those brand lift studies supporting my primary KPI for the brand of how brands grow, which I've been talking about ad nauseum, thinking about, are we salient and resonating with the consumer at the right time? Are we meaningful to the consumer? Are we driving differentiation? And so for me, it's like if we have those big goals for the brand, how are those brand lift studies showing that they're supporting that? because I want to be growing a brand. I don't want to be just chasing a sale or chasing a view or something like that. So it's a little bit of both, right? You can't always be doing only one side and growing a brand long term, and then just ignoring sales. So it's just being more mindful of what those singular KPIs are. I think that's been huge for PepsiCo, and it also makes it so simplistic for everyone, right? Like from the time the brief is written, by the time the plan's activated, when you're looking at the optimization, and then obviously the CEOs and the CMOs like yourself are looking at, hey, how's the business doing? You can show them both sides of the business and say, hey, we're actually lifting kind of both sides here. We're finding that right balance for the brands.
And we didn't really plan for all the questions that I'm being prompted in my own head to ask you right now. But how does your team look at the attention of the audience that you're trying to speak to? Because you mentioned the idea of building for long-term growth versus short-term numbers. And obviously there's a lot of correlation between looking at one set of data and the next set of data, but attention factors in heavily, especially for the brands that you have where you're trying to build that long-term loyalty to a product. Do you factor in whether or not the media vehicles that you are using right now are able to break through and that people actually see them? If, for example, people try to skip so much television advertising right now, but we still know it's the biggest place for you to tell the story of your brand. So how do you factor that into your planning?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's probably the holy grail. I think later today we're having some conversations around reach versus relevancy. And we're trying to obviously be more on the relevant side. So it starts on a foundational basis of getting, again, back to the C-suite, understanding that we're not just chasing reach. We're not just chasing CPMs here. Anyone could go on a price floor and just buy it and scale it and probably drive some incrementality. That's going to dilute the brand. So it's one, it's buy-in. So make sure we want to drive relevancy. Okay. And then two, data signals. What data are you getting back in? So we used to use a couple platforms. I'm not going to say the providers, but they were great. They would give it attention, dwell times, invalid traffic, like bounce rates. And those were great, but they weren't telling the full picture of what's actually happening with the media. So now we're actually working with new sets of partners for those attention metrics, like you mean. And so while the measurement place is getting put in place right now, which is exciting for PepsiCo, I think too is working with key partners that can actually deliver on that promise. That's the other holy grail. It's like, okay, we're set up to do this. Now who can help us actually deliver and be relevant in those moments? And also, it's not only the creative message, but it's also being endemic to the platform and making sure that you understand what is the consumer going to be responsive to. Are they going to click off the ad? Or are they going to watch it? Why are they watching it? There's so many, you don't want to just like explain away something and just say, well, the media was wrong. We should not have been in that environment. And I think what you're trying to get to is like, well, it could have been just, it was not in the right place, or the creative was too long, or it was skinned improperly. So there's a lot of explaining like factors that you could point to of why it didn't work. But if you have the measurement piece, the senior buy-in, and then you're working with partners that know those platforms really well and know how the consumer is going to respond, I think that you're starting to stack things and build towards that ultimate goal of relevancy.
Yeah, and I can tell you from my own experience, because we've worked with some of the folks at Pepsi for Rembrand, you guys are leading that charge of being able to do things like putting the brands into content and finding new ways to reach that audience that can't get skipped in a way that still can actually go beyond just reach and frequency, but also to impact and attention. So I think your brands are doing a really good job of trying to figure out how to do that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And it's and it has been at the leadership level. I think a key for us is media has a seat at the table finally.
Yeah, that's good.
And before it was just you're throwing something over the fence and said, good luck. Like, hopefully, fingers crossed, you can make magic happen. And so we're working together, understanding that, because it's so important to show up at the right time and to make sure the consumer feels like this is a welcome message, or it resonates with me. It's relevant to me. It's not just like this is annoying. And it's a little bit of a storytelling component. I think you're seeing some of our brands kind of get back into that area, like where it's Lay's, like Little Farmer.
Yeah,
it's pulling on those heartstrings. Like, hey, we're a real potato. We're made of like real ingredients. So tell it. Like, it doesn't have to be a price point or like the latest pop star that's like, assigned to your product basically. And it's just every year they change out. It's really creating meaning with that consumer and really feeling like that's a brand that I love and care for. And all of a sudden the ad then doesn't become an advertisement. It becomes a mini kind of narrative. It becomes a story. And you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And before you know it, maybe I'm buying some more Lay's.
Yeah.
The story.
Yeah, I can tell that you enjoy what you do. So I'm not going to ask you, what is it that you take away from your job all the time that you really are proud of? But I will ask you this: if you could wave a magic wand and you could talk to the people in the industry, what is it you're looking forward to have happening? What do you want to see happen over the next year?
Oof. I think that's probably, I can answer in two ways. First, I want people to stop in the media space, to stop chasing data, AI, algorithms, getting back to the human element of who we are as not only as marketers, but as people. I think passion, creativity, drive, proactiveness, it comes from treating people like as human beings. And so with my teams, I always want to have an open door policy. I want to hear their pain points. I feel we're chasing so much data and numbers and all the time. It just gets acidic and like everyone's just like, and we're not outdoors. We're in Austin here. I can't wait to get outside. Yep. It's just be as a human being. And I think that fosters a lot of creativity, collaboration. So I want to set the tone there. And then two, on the other piece that we're talking about with the AI, I really hope that we can move past some of chasing algorithms and chasing a machine. So we're talking about SEO earlier and like how that's changed. Now AI is almost setting those trends. And like, well, it used to be based on the consumer, what the consumer was thinking. And now AI is almost telling the consumer what to do. And that's a scary proposition, because then it's like, should I be having this? Is this a selective criteria that I've based on for my choice that's serving me? Are consumers willing to push past that and go, I don't know if that's the right thing for me? So I think the undertone on both of those is the human element. Creativity comes from being a human being, partnership, collaboration, just treating people like human beings, and then also it shows up in the work. And then I want the industry to keep pushing on that human element. Let's not be as so data driven all the time. Let's think about what the consumer wants, and let's provide it, because if not, then the whole thing kind of falls down, kind of house of cards there.
It does. And I think everything that we're seeing, whether you're at South by this week and you're talking to people, or stuff that we all read and we write about for the rest of the year, what is going to happen is that AI is just a tool for us to be able to go and implement a lot of the ideas and the creativity that we have much more quickly than we did in the past. But fundamentally, nonlinear creative thinking is still a human trait.
Yes.
And then the ability to go execute. You can get an AI to execute a lot of things for you, but there is still an execution element that is a very human approach that I don't think can be replicated. And I think that's always going to be our benefit to work with.
Yeah. And that's well said. I like the non-linear point you just made there. That's critical.
We are really good at going on tangents, but not today, not in this interview. So thank you for taking time to do it, Drew. Appreciate it very much, and hope the rest of you have a great day.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Cory.